Oh, hello guys, and welcome back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. So, guys, in today's video, I'll show you guys how to cut and sew this off-shoulder blouse with off-shoulder sleeve. So, it's a simple process. So, I'm going to be making it a very beginners-friendly tutorial to make it easy. As a beginner, you will be able to cut and sew this blouse after sewing and any other off-shoulder blouse. So these are the measurements on the screen that I'm going to be making use of, and my fabric. So I'll use about 2 yards. It will not be enough, up to 2 yards. So all of the lines here, I have the shoulder line. So you can see how I place my tape and placed it at 6 inches. And then the next line is the bust line, okay? And then the third line is the under bust line, and then the fourth line is the waist, and then the hip line. So you place your tape, take out about 5 or 6 inches from your pattern. So that is why you saw that I placed the tape that way. So the next thing I want to do now, I want to mark the shoulder measurement. That's the shoulder line. So for my shoulder is 14 inches. So I'll divide that into 7. I'll take out 1 inch because it is an off shoulder. I don't want the neckline to start falling. So after marking 6 inches at that point, because I took out 1 inch, I'll come down by 2 inches and then connect it. So why am I coming down by 2 inches? You know, my tape is placed at 6 inches. So when I add that 2 inches to it, it will make 8 inches to form my armhole. Okay. So the next thing, I want to take out my bust pan. So that's my dart. So I'll use my bust pan measurement. I'll use 4.5 inches. So that 4.5 inches, I'm marking it all across all of my lines. And then I'll connect it with a straight ruler like this. Okay. So if you don't understand, you can always ask a question. Just drop your question on the comment section. So I'll connect that line like that. I'm using my nipple to nipple. Like I said, I say it's 9. You divide into 2. I have 4.5. So for my dart, I want to take out 3 inches for my dart. So that 3 inches, I'll divide that. I'll take out 2 inches on the right hand side and then take out just 1 inch on the left hand side. So after doing that, I'm going to connect that to the hem of my blouse. That's the 1 inch from that left hand part. I'll just connect it like that to the hem, and then the 2 inches on the right hand side, I'll connect it to the hem. Okay, so from that part now, I'll create a curve to meet my bust point line, and then I'll create the same curve on the other side also. So after creating it, you can see how it is looking now. Okay, so the next thing now, come to that shoulder part. So that shoulder line now, I want to do a shoulder dart. So I'll mark 3.5 inches, which is usually our neckline measurement. So I'll mark 3.5 inches to that point. So you can share that 6 inches. You can actually use 3 inches, but I decided to use 3.5 inches because I don't want a curve at that point. So that is what I was trying to explain. So I'll mark it and then I'll connect that shoulder dart. I'll connect it to that bust point dart. So from that point now, I want to tighten that part a little bit more. I want to take out another 1 inch from my shoulder measurement. So I'll take out half of an inch to the right hand side and then half of an inch to the left hand side. So this one, what I'm trying to do there is to tighten so that my neckline will not gape at all. So that is what I'm trying to do at that point. So I'll connect them that way so you can see what I'm doing. So I'll just like connect it, blend it into that curved line that was coming before. Okay, so after that part, now the next thing I want to do now, I want to mark my chest line. So you know chest line usually 8. So that chest line is the same thing with that armhole line. So you can see it is the same line. So I came down to that point to create my neckline. So the neckline is 8 inches. So I connected it to that armhole. That's the armhole line for the neck. So you can see. So after that, another thing that I did, I took out quarter of an inch from that point. So this one is optional. You can decide not to do it if you want an off shoulder that will fall very well. You don't need to add that, just leave it the way it is. Okay, so but since I wanted mine to be tight, so that's why I took out those quarter of an inch. Like I said, that one is optional. So the next thing now, let's add our full body measurement. So divide my bust measurement into 4. I'll add it, and then so at this point now I was just trying to elongate my armhole line. Okay, So I'll just mark it that way. And then the next thing, I'll come to the same, and what I have there, I'll just extend it to my bust line. So you can see that's what I was trying to do. Remember, our that is 3 inches. So now bring my under bust measurement, divide that into 4, and then I'll place it there, and then add back that 3 inches that I'm taking out for my dart. I'll add it back into my pattern, and then add my measurement for my allowance. So after doing that, I'll just connect it this way, just connect it to that same line that is coming from the top. So the next thing, I'll come to my waistline. I'll measure my waistline measurement, divide that into 4, place it, and then add my darts. I'll place it that way, and then I'll come to my hip line, which is 40, divide by 4. I'll place it, and then add like half of an inch, because when I cut, I'm going to lose some inches from that down. So just add it, and then add your stitching allowance. So I'll connect it this way. Okay, so basically now we are done with this. So the next thing we're going to do now is just for us to cut this out, and then we're already done with the front pattern. So like I said, that point is optional. You can decide not to tighten that part, just leave it that way. So that's my armhole line, so I marked it. So I'm cutting that off now, so you can see how the shape of the pattern is coming out now. So like I said, that armhole line, since we dropped our off shoulder with 6 inches, so you come down by 2 inches to make it 9 inches to curve your armholes. It is not a tube dress, it has small tiny off shoulder sleeves, so you can see. All right, so at this point now, just trying to cut out my piece, to cut them out nicely. And then so I have my front piece. So that's all. That's how simple and easy this is. The next thing we're going to do now, we're going to draft the back. So if there's any part you don't understand at this point now, you understand it. So let's go by our pattern again. So at this point now, we'll use our shoulder measurement, which is 7 minus 1 inch, which is 6, and then you place your tape like this and come down by 8 inches. So I'm trying to label the lines again, all of the same lines, shoulder line. And then so at this point now, I came down by 2 inches because my armhole is 9. Okay, so I'll mark that line. So I'm just marking it. So that same line is serving as my chest line. You understand? You know, 8 inches is usually like standard for chest line. So I'll create my armhole curve at that point. And then the next thing I want to do now, I want to take out my full body measurement. So at this point, I'm placing my bust measurement, divide by 4 inches. So I'll place that, and then I'll mark it, add extra inches to it. So I'm adding about 2 inches at that point now for my allowance. So what I have there, I'm just bringing it from that chest line, I'm bringing it to my bust line so that everything will be accurate. So the next thing, I'll come to my under bust measurement. I'll divide my under bust measurement into 4. I'm going to take out 1 inch dart, so I'll add that 1 inch dart back into my pattern, and then I'll add my stitching allowance. So after adding that, I'll connect it now to the point. Okay, so after connecting it to that point, I'll come to my waistline measurement. I'll divide my waistline measurement into 4, and then I'm going to add 1 inch for my dart, and then another 2 inches for my allowance. So I'll come to the hip line, also mark the same thing. That's mark my hip line measurement, divide by 4, and then I'll connect all of the lines so you can see my dress. So the next thing I want to do now, I want to mark out my dart. So before I mark out the dart, I want to mark my neckline. So remember, the front we use 8 inches for our neckline, but for the back I'll come down by 1 inch. So at the end of the day, I came down, the back neckline depth is 9 inches. Okay, and then I'll curve it. So remember, when you are placing anything vertically on your off shoulder, you need to minus the shoulder measurement, that's the length. Okay, so now I'm taking out my dart. I'll use my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4.5, 4.5. So I marked it across all of the lines the same way we did with the front pattern, and then I connected it to that chest line point. So for this, I want my dart to run across to the top because it is an off shoulder. I still want to tighten the neckline at that back part, so I'll run my dart to the top. So as I ran it to the top, I'll come to the neckline part. I don't want my neckline to gape. So at that point now, I'll just take out the same half of an inch from that point, and then I'll mark it straight. At this point, you don't want to curve it, so you're not going to have like hunchback at that back. So don't curve it. So just make sure you mark it straight so you can see how it is looking straight. So this will help me to avoid any gape at that back. So the next thing I want to do now, I'm just trying to check. I want to mark my dart. So I came down from my bust line measurement. I came down by 2 inches and just put a mark, and then I'll come to my waist measurement. I'm taking out 1 inch dart, so I'll mark half inch to the side, and then I'll connect it to that point that I came down by 2 inches from my bust line. So the line did not get to my bust line. I came down because I don't want to take out any dart from the inside the bust. So that is why I came down by 2 inches and then connected it to that waist and then connected it to the hem. Can you guys see how simple and easy this is? So we are done cutting our pattern. So this neckline now, because of that inch that I took out from that neckline, it will make my neckline to be firm. It's not going to gape and it's not going to fall out. So I'm cutting all of my pattern right now. So it is a simple process, like I said, a very simple process. So because if you guys notice, I don't want to rush this tutorial, so I'm going to stop the tutorial here right now. So these are all of my pieces. In our next class, we're going to sew them. So I want to really make it simple and easy. So I'm just trying to label all of my piece together. Okay, so that's the fabric that I'm going to be using. I'll see you guys in my next class.